That's terrible. So I'm here coming to you from the bunker. You don't need to know what's happening. I am incognito. But let me tell you the story. The story changes every day, doesn't it? We started out and it was about a virus. Now it's about a riot. What's going to be next? Is it going to be about a war? Is it going to be about those carriers in the South China Sea? Is the virus going to come back? Or are you going to see things flying through the sky? Let me give you something I heard. A little bird told me, you keep your eyes to the heavens when we get into September. Because the earth, the rocky road we're going through, we're going to keep on going through it. And we don't know what we're going to hit. You know why you don't know the truth? Because you don't write the data.
I don't think you're live.
I am live. Pause. Dana, yes, I am live.
It says waiting.
I'm talking to people on here. Yes.
I'm on here right now, too.
Well, I don't know why it's not working. Anyway, you're messing up my monologue. Okay. Can you guys hear me, by the way? If you can hear me, say something, just so I can tell. Because it says I'm live. I want to make sure I'm doing this right.
It says waiting online.
Well, it shouldn't say waiting. It says live when I'm doing it. I'm here. I'm recording it. Well, let's see. If I... You know, I mean, talk about shadow ban, right? I mean, honest to God.
We know it says that you're live.
Well, am I actually live?
No, it says waiting.
Well, for fuck's sake.
Is your camera on?
Yes.
Yeah, no one can see you.
Am I here now?
Yeah.
So wait, you're telling me I was recording. All right, hey everybody. I was literally talking into a camera, doing a monologue for, Dana will attest, what was it, about 2 minutes?
Yeah.
And now I'm literally finding out the screen wasn't even recording me. I can't believe this. I got screen banned. You know, shadow banned? I literally got screen banned. All right, so here's your new conspiracy. We're going to do a new open, and I'm going to do it in my own voice. Literally, we've gotten to the point, and I'm sorry if I'm bouncing a little bit. The computer's on my lap, and I had to do it that way because everything else is a mess in the other room. I'm cleaning it out. No, I don't want to think. We'll just leave it, and I won't bounce as much. So I was going to say, literally, what was happening was I got screen banned. I was recording the video of what I was doing. It wouldn't even share that. But hello to everyone who's here. And let me go into the monologue here with our good friend Conspiracy Gimmick Guy. No, and that's what I'm saying. I understand what you're saying, Andrew. I literally, like I said, I was recording for 3 minutes doing a whole clever monologue that just got screwed up by YouTube. Thank you very much, Google, by the way. Really appreciate you. Great job. Anyway, okay, so to the point. The thing that nobody knows, like I get myself into the voice, right? The thing that nobody knows is the things they don't know. It starts off with a virus. Then it goes to riots. Then who knows what'll be next? I don't know and you don't know, but a little bird said, keep your eyes to the heavens because in September, the sky may start falling on you. Sounds a little crazy, doesn't it? But we live in biblical times, and we live in a time when strange things are happening every day. We saw a rock pass within the distance between New York to California of the Earth. NASA didn't even see it. Or did they just not tell you? How many things are happening that weren't told to you? How far back do you have to look to see what's true? Let me tell you the world we live in. Little boxes. We're watching one another. Everyone's watching us. Everyone's making comments. Dopamine-driven addictions. Lights and whistles. Bells and sounds. Everything out there to try to convince you what's really happening. But who's behind that screen? You see 10 people oppose you. How many of them are real? You see 3 people support you. How many of them are on your side? Do you even know what's out there in the world anymore? You could turn off the screen and go out there, but the world's scary, isn't it? And when the world's scary, you hide, but while you're hiding, the world is changing all around you. Maybe you should look at our friends in Australia and New Zealand. Cash is going away the moment after their guns did. A haircut's coming along, and pretty soon you'll be buzzed just like I am. You won't be able to spend your money. You'll be getting free money for the free game, when you get uploaded, when you get jacked to the system. Mark of the beast, vaccine, quantum dot, computing gel. I don't know what it is. I know one thing. Nobody else is going to tell you. You got to decide what you're going to be. Because you're living in an age when a free man has consequences, and a free man always has to be on the move. What do I know? I know that we are going to see things you have not seen in human history. You know, the good book tells you the real words, as in the times of Noah, when fallen angels came down to teach forbidden technologies. How much truth can you handle? How scared are you going to be? Even here, we got 22/7, almost pi, literally, the amount of people who are here. Because it's all a circle. It all comes back. At the end, you get back to the beginning, and then things repeat once more. So what should we watch? What should we know? What can I tell you? I've been digging deep. I've been going places where you're not supposed to go, learning things you're not supposed to see. You guys get to hear it as we go ahead and figure out what we're going to do in this, but I will tell you, we're going to a time where not only will you find it hard to trust people, but people themselves are changing. Have you ever noticed during an eclipse the animals get a little crazy? Have you ever noticed that during a solar minimum, people don't behave the same? You know? Forget astrology. Let me tell you astronomy. When you go ahead and you go into strange places, the mind starts to wander. And now, when we live in a world where fiction and reality appear one and the same, how can you tell what's true? If you see little green men come down, are they projections into your eyes, projections into your mind, or the reality of the world? What happens when you can't believe what you see in the age of deep fakes? What happens when your friends that exist on the internet aren't even there? What happens when people themselves might just be a projection? What is true? What can you believe? Who do you trust? Me? You don't have to trust me. I just tell the truth because I have nothing in it. Not for it, not against it. Just a guy who's been out here too long and has seen a thing or two. And that's what I wanted to share with you. An understanding of what's happening in this world as we go forward. And what's my future? You won't know. And you won't see me because the day will come soon enough where the light switch doesn't turn on and the screen doesn't come up on. Facebook, not my face. Twitter, tweet someone else. What do we got left? YouTube. You think I'm not going to be banned here from 5 minutes? It's only because so few people know. If more people knew, I would be gone. And you all know that too. DLive, Gab, doesn't matter. I'll be in my books. I'll be on my knees. I'll be praying. I'll be waiting. I'll be surviving. And where I'll be, the only way it's safe is for me to not know because I can't tell you what I don't know. But I do know one thing. The time's coming for you to figure out who you are. Because when you can't trust what's outside, you can only trust what's inside. And you're going to have to dig deeper. You're going to have to find that little pine cone in your mind and start digging into that gland until you can go ahead and connect with the bigger world and understand that things are not what they appear. Because when you can't trust your eyes and you can't trust your ears, you're going to have to trust your mind. And that's all that's left. And if you get lucky, you might just win yourself a soul. And if you do that wrong, it was nice knowing you. Maybe we'll tell your story one day. God bless. Yeah. So, I am your host, the inimitable Tom Kaczynski, most hated man in New England, also your resident hero, playing the role of Robin Hood, stealing from the rich and giving to the poor in terms of information and content that you very much want to have. Hello to the whole Atlantic nation. Welcome to each of you, the Northeastern nation, right? Actually, I've been talking to some of those guys too, but that's neither here nor there. I want to thank each and every one of you. It's been a long time. I've missed you all. Hopefully you feel the same way. I mean, if you're here, obviously you must be doing that. Either that or it's reruns tonight and you're boycotting the NBA. Could talk about that for a minute. You know, I'm sure, the whole thing of get woke, go broke is great. These people don't realize that they're not the victims when they make tens of millions of dollars. We could talk about Kenosha, Wisconsin. I think it's interesting. We got a high-powered lawyer now for Wittenhouse over there, Mr. Lynn, who's saying the weapon was in Wisconsin. So we'll see what happens in that. And we could talk about the fact that the whole country is being pushed into war, right? I mean, that's a big question, something that's worth talking about, that we have a very small amount of people who look like they have a very big influence because they have amplifiers and echo chambers. Have you noticed how the comments are being taken away from all the news sections, Yahoo, wherever? Have you noticed that even the faces on Fox News are out there? They're presenting a certain line. Everyone's telling you the peaceful protesters, the fiery, peaceful protesters. Okay, so the riot program is moving forward, and it's interesting. You see those riots that happened in Minneapolis. What ends up happening is that a guy shoots himself and they riot over it. Where do you remember this from? Do you remember it from Tunisia? A guy sets himself on fire and we have an Arab Spring. So when we see all this happening, who knows what questions to ask? And if you're following the deeper trends like I am, why is Shinzo Abe resigning in Japan? I want an answer to that. I know you don't even know that. That just happened today. Shinzo is not a guy who gives up power easily. Something's going on there. Why is New Zealand making bartering for food illegal? Why is that happening? Why do we see these terrible lightning strikes, dual hurricanes happening in the mid-Atlantic, or excuse me, in the Gulf of Mexico? Why do we see all these businesses being blown up? Why do we hear trumpets in the sky? I'm not even kidding. Dana can link you if she wants to later. Maybe she will. But you can see that we are living in truly remarkable times. And as Julie said it, you got it right. God is with us, man. And I will tell you, I'm just going to tell you this going forward because I got to say it. It's a conviction on my soul. Look, I'm a Christian, and I'm going to give you truth more than you can probably handle. You either ride with me as best you can, or find another source. I got to say what's true, and I'm going to say that, and you can't understand this unless you understand some of the deeper spiritual realities. If you haven't read it, go read the book of Enoch, go read Matthew 24, Luke 21, 2 Timothy, and Revelation 6 would be a good place to start. And that will give you a feel for some of the things that are happening here. What else do I want to say? I also want to say hello to everyone up here in the Atlantic, up in the Northeast specifically. As this whole thing falls apart, we're going to have to talk much more with one another. I am your voice and choice to go out there and do it. Serving as the king of the land nobody wants. But I'm very glad to go talk to people and get people aware, get people thinking. What I want you guys to do tonight, make my life easy. Jared, good to see you. Hello to everybody. I got your email, by the way, man. Thank you. I just haven't had a chance to respond to things because I've been very busy with a project. I will talk about that in a month and a half. I am working towards another book also, and I will be doing some email responses this weekend. So I very much am looking forward to doing that. Hopefully you guys have enjoyed the quality of the podcast. I am told they're very good, and if you want to help support, keep that going. A little support is helpful. The Venmo is CVCPRV. That helps. I want to thank those of you who are supporting the program. That's good. And I would say, honestly, I've made a lot more doing coronavirus stuff. And the reason why actually is because I was appealing to women, not men. Whereas men want knowledge about what's happening in the future, women want to know what's going to keep you safe right now. And as such, what I will end up doing is spending as much time talking about that as I can. And I'm trying to give you a feel for why what's happening around us is happening. Hopefully the show has been useful. So what I want today, and I'm going to give you a little bit of a monologue, but I don't have a deep one. And I'll talk as I go through that. But get me some good questions. Give me good questions. You get good answers. I will be your human fortune cookie. We'll have a good time. Hopefully I won't crack. And then let's egg roll through this, right? So I will say that one of the things that's been true as I've been going through this, and I was hosting some people, and I had a chance to meet some of the people in the Atlantic who are very committed to having a better future, is we came to realize the important question. Yeah, I will talk about that. Absolutely, John. So the meeting of the minds came to a realization, which is that we are being engineered into a conflict between the left and the right that is ultimately artificial, which is not to say that the disagreements between the left and the right are artificial. They very much are not. But what is actually happening in the streets is that people who have been poorly informed and poorly educated are being paid to be provocateurs by a few people who are very cynical, a bunch of people who are not very bright, and that we are seeing this effort go forward to go ahead and crack this country in two. Now, I do believe that effort is going to succeed because there's pretty much a limited amount of money, or excuse me, an unlimited amount of money that is in the game. So why do I think that's relevant? That we are heading towards an election, if we reach it, when neither side can abide the other side winning. Should Donald Trump win, which is what I am actually now predicting, because the riots have literally scared middle America to the point where they won't even look at a Democrat. And I think that these riots have cost Joe Biden the states of Minnesota, Wisconsin, Michigan, Ohio, and Pennsylvania. I know those states pretty well. I've traveled in most of them. You're not going to see support for these sorts of movements. So even if he picks off a state, he's not going to take over Texas. And what will happen is the riots will be taken to a whole nother level. You may see secession declared. I think it would start in California and on the West Coast, but they will literally burn the cities down. And when that happens, the question that you will have to consider, and this was what came up in the meeting, is what will we do when this happens? And the Northeast has a specific role to play in this because ultimately the Northeast is a purple region. Let's be honest about that. You got a red inland and a blue coast. And so what's going to be happening is California goes out. You're going to have this idea of, will the Mountain West suppress them? And mind you, in the Mountain West, they hate Californians, but they just as soon see them rot. I've talked to enough people out there. They've told me as much. And then you're stuck with the federal government asking Dixie to stop a secession. That's really funny, but it could happen that way, them in the Midwest. But up here in the Northeast, people here are going to be thinking, well, we don't want to fight California, and we don't want to stand for this. So at that point, then there might be a chance for us to articulate something else. And the question I have to each and every one of you is America worth fighting for as presently constituted? Because if you go fight a civil war on behalf of the federal government for either side to oppress others, you are going to have an authoritarian, totalitarian state that's going to tell you in whatever place you live how you have to live in every bit of your life, and you will never have another opportunity to get away from that. So are you willing to feed the beast? And the beast, by the way, may not just be in Washington. It might be on the Upper East Side of New York over there at the United Nations, because what we are seeing is an American takedown that's being engineered to create a single global network. And as we look at that and we understand that we're at the heart of what's going to be created that in the Northeast, the question we have to have is, can we intelligently separate ourselves on some different principle and accept that while people are not there, can we build a post-American framework based on localism and the four virtues that we've defined, which are nature, reason, grace, and loyalty, to actually succeed in having something different? I will say, tellingly, I am having very good, productive conversations with everyone except people who are totally linked into the way the world used to be and hardcore neo-Bolshevik radicals. And both of those groups are going to fight each other to the death either way. If we stay clear of them, that problem solves itself. So up here in the Atlantic, one of the conclusions that we made was in our meeting was we are going to continue expanding the effort of what we're doing with Free Atlantic Radio, Free Atlantic Voices. You see those two efforts. And that what I will do is begin to articulate this in a way that reaches to a broader audience. And I'm going to talk about the things that continue to be important to each and every one of us, because we realize right now there is not the consciousness to do anything more than what we are doing. But what we are doing is linking county to county, network to network, grassroots to grassroots. And we encourage you to do this not through a centralized structure that can be targeted, isolated, and defeated, but that you do so organically. I'm very pleased to say we've had a lot of luck reaching and developing far deeper roots in the state of Pennsylvania. Very excited about that. New York continues to be a growing place of strength for us. We finally have an affiliate in Vermont, so that's good news. And even in Massachusetts, we have a little bit of support. So we definitely are working hard to go ahead and get people talking to one another. What we are building is the hard line at the bottom of this. We're building the old Fortran network that is going to be out there, and it's going to convince people that they should do things differently. And the conversations we're having are shaping these ideas here. Now, what we will see, as Andrew says, and he says it rightly, if the U.S. goes ahead and intervenes out west, and they will, or if let's say Biden wins somehow, if they intervene in Texas, the same thing applies. We have to decide what we're fighting for. And I would remind you of what Tocqueville said. Tocqueville says that we are in a position where if America is not good, it will not be great. And we're not a good country. I hate to say it. We are a land, and forgive me, I'm going to put on my Christian hat, but this is the truth. We celebrate the murder of children. We glorify sodomy. We now go ahead and we are rewarding pedophilia. I mean, Dana was sharing a story with me. This is absolutely crazy. I think it was in the Daily Mail. And they were saying that literally they're taking people off the sex offender list if they're gays who have sexual abuse with children that are not 10 years younger than them. So if a 20-year-old rapes a 10-year-old in California, they're not considered a sex offender. This is absolutely crazy, but this is the agenda. This is what wickedness looks like. And I will say we are reaching the point where the evils that are being committed by our nation are such that you will literally see our land treated as a second Babylon. And in the Bible, if you read these things, certain things happen when those things go forward. And you may believe that, you may not believe that. But I will tell you this, evil always sows the seeds of its own destruction. Why? Because no one trusts it, because they realize that it's something that leads to bad outcomes. It's something no one will fight for. Everyone will fight against one another. And you see this in the insane discord. You see this in the demoniacal nature of the people who are in the streets right now. So we are going to go ahead and offer a different view to this, a view of sanity, and we're going to continue to build it in whatever regions, by the way, for people who are out there, for our friends down south, for those who are in Texas, in the Mountain West, even the Californians, whatever. Whoever's out there, the chance now is we all have to kind of do our own thing. And if we don't do that, I genuinely and wholeheartedly believe, and I believe it's going to happen anyway, but I believe that we will get drawn into a world war. And I think that that's true because other countries look at the insanity that's here, the fact that we still have some sort of control, and they see either a golden opportunity or something that needs to be removed. And don't think just because we look at the world as an amoral construct that others look at it that way. You know, Russia went ahead and they built 200 churches in the last 10 years. You know what we do? We put rainbow flags in front of them and have men parade around in diapers, going ahead, showing, exposing themselves to toddlers. So when you look at where the problems are, I've met the enemy, and it is us. So, me dressed here in plaid, up here in the Northwoods, and they can say whatever horrible things they're going to say about me. But I'm going to go out there and speak truth. I'm going to say that perversion is perversion, degeneracy is degeneracy, the Lord is my Savior, and I'm going to go ahead and speak truth as much as I can, as long as I can, as loud as I can. Here in the Atlantic, what we are looking for is something that destroys the worst elements of that makes a middle ground that we can live with. It has a degree of compromise that we can go forward with, and it gets people talking to one another. And I will be 100% blunt with you. I don't think we have time to undo what's out there, but I think the relationships we make now may be the key to our survival when things start to fall apart. That's literally what I think is going to happen. I do believe that we will see this country destroyed within the next 6 months from its own internal contradictions, and I do think we may have some help with some more natural disasters. I would not be surprised at all to see major earthquakes. I would not be surprised to see volcanoes. And I know all this stuff sounds harder than you can believe. I understand all that. I understand these are things you can't imagine, but if you see the world through spiritual eyes, it becomes really obvious that what happens is a consequence of how people behave. When you have a situation where people behave as wickedly as we have for as long as we have. And remember, America was once a great nation. We were a nation that believed these things. And I will say one thing. The Democrats have totally sold out to evil. The Republicans pretend to represent the good, but we know historically they don't. We need something better, okay? And I'm not telling you what to vote because honestly, I'm sort of beyond that. It's like even here in Maine, we got a Senate race. We got Sarah Gideon, who literally is the speaker of this, the Democrat, who has supported female genital mutilation because she didn't want to offend Somalis. On the other hand, we have Susan Collins, proud Republicans, who has enough blood money on her hands to go ahead and take a bath in it like Marina Abramovich. So who am I supposed to support? I'm not supporting either of them. This is the ugliness we are actually dealing with in this world. And I am not going to tarnish myself by endorsing anyone who is that ugly. And I'm not going to vote for either of them. I feel much the same way about a lot of the things at the federal issues that I understand. The same way Republicans always talk a good game, and then they got elected. I remember the first 2 years, they didn't fix anything. So when these fights happen where we end up fighting one another, I am not fighting for either side. I am fighting for the side of what's right. I'm fighting for God first. I'm fighting for my family second. I'm fighting for the region after that, and I will fight with people who fight alongside me. And you know what? Ian wrote a good point with the asteroids. The asteroids, I have heard there's a very good chance one might hit on November 2nd. And if you don't believe me, you want to see what weirdness is in the world, I'm going to give you a couple rabbit holes to jump by. You go ahead and look up something called, what's it called? Project Bluebeam, and you go a little deeper and you look up Project Fire Sign, okay? And I had no better priority than a 4-star general at DOD tell me this stuff exists. So take it for what it's worth. I've been out here a long time, and I figured out some things. And, I will tell you one other thing, since you guys are talking about earthquakes. If you don't know, here's who the guy you need to follow is. His name's Dutchsinse, Dutchsinc, or Sinse. These are he'll tell you the stories of how this is going. The volcanism in the world is getting funny, and I will tell you another part of the story, okay? If you really want to know it, it's a very old story and it's a very new story, and I will tell you the reality of it. That ultimately the New World Order will be the final sacrifice made on the altar of the beast system. And why is that? What is the Antichrist? The Antichrist is a figure that wants to be loved and worshipped. The New World Order is an organization that's reviled and feared. What will happen is, in the same way that demons always consume their own, look for leadership to emerge on a global scale that goes ahead and destroys that which we hate most, and goes ahead and says, we are here to care for you. We will go ahead and protect you. This is the way the game works. Controlled opposition. It's the oldest story in the world. It literally is. Man ate from the tree of knowledge of good and evil, the dialectic, the idea that A is good and B is bad, but they're the same tree. Do you understand that? It's the same outcome because you're trying to have the tree of life, right? You're trying to live in a world where life is what matters. That's why Jesus was so radically different. And why am I sharing to you this way? Because the enemy of your enemy is your smarter, bigger enemy. They're the ones who are manipulating people behind you. And that's why you have to understand truth or you will fall to deception. That's what you're dealing with in these times. So when you see these people rioting in the streets, understand who's pulling their strings. It's the big businesses. It's the big corporations. Who's pulling their strings? It's the big bankers. Who's pulling their strings? Well, who are they having seances for? What are they calling art that's really occultism? What are they trying to do with transhumanism? Why are they trying to live forever? Why do you see machines going into everything? Why do you hear so much about deep AI being created? Why is it that we're getting to the point where our internet experience is so personalized that we are literally now living in a box that's created around us to fit our own prejudices, biases, and beliefs? We used to think that we were being shadow banned. Now we're being hotboxed. We're being put in there where we're going ahead and we see the fumes of everything we want to believe. We see the stories we want to believe, and we think that's our world. And meanwhile, somewhere inside Deus Ex Machina, something's happening in the machine to tell you the story you want to hear, and that leads you to the same conclusion. Because if you can control the enemies of someone, you can usually control the outcomes. This is literally what we're looking at. And I'm telling you all of this because I know most people aren't going to get it, and I know most people aren't going to watch it. If you like and subscribe, by the way, that lets more people know. It helps. But I'm telling you this because these are the challenges you're going to have. And you, in my opinion, are going to be facing things of literally biblical import. You're going to be betting your soul before this life's over. We are the last generation. Humanity is not going to survive another generation. And you don't have to believe a whit of the Bible to understand that. You can look at AI. You can look at virology. You can look at all the ways we're trying to destroy ourselves, all the tools at our disposal, and understand that to the people who are in power, we are exposed. We are expendable. We are going to be extinguished. And whether that happens in the sense that we become happy slaves and serfs, whether that happens through mass destruction, however it happens, take climate change at face value. They want a world that's a park, and they don't want a bunch of hobos who look like this going around in it. So these are some of the things you're going to have to look for, you're going to have to be aware of, give you a little bit of a feel of things that I am thinking about and that I am concerned about. And I want to go ahead and reach out to you. And look, I'm not trying to tell you my truth. I spend all my time buried in books, Dana will attest, looking for truth and trying to understand it. And what is actually truth? No greater love has a man than willing to die for his friends. That's what it is. He's willing to die for his family. That's what we have to do. We have to show some loyalty to one another. We have to find what is true, and we have to seek one another. And that's why I'm here. Honestly, if it was up to me, and this is the honest truth of it, I'm kind of tired of talking. I don't really like doing shows anymore. And it's not because I don't enjoy each and every one of you, but because I don't know what to say. I don't know what to tell you other than I can tell you that we're coming to a time of great decision. And I know I'm going to have the unpleasant reality that I'm going to be out there screaming stuff that I literally don't want to do. But I have to do it because that's my job. That's what I am compelled and convicted to do. That I have to go out here and speak truth because everything I tell you wakes people up to a deeper understanding of the world. I take a machete to the onion, and when you start crying from the stink, then those tears actually are liberating. They help you awaken. So that's what I do, and that's what I'm going to continue doing. I will go back. We're going to go through all your questions because we're about a half hour in. We'll go, if you guys can keep the questions going good enough, and you can throw in some softballs too, by the way. I wouldn't mind that. Growing the beard. I'm going to have some more news going forward in the future. Going to continue the shows Monday, Wednesday, Friday, although I might be dark, not next week, but the week after that. I do intend on writing a book. I'm going to call it In God We Must. And the reason I'm writing that book is I want people to understand the limitations of what you can expect from this system as we go into a time where you have much bigger questions to solve, which is if we can't solve how we relate to one another, politics isn't going to fix our problems. And you can support whomever you want. It's open to anyone who wants to understand these things. But I want you to understand the lies that were taken from you. And it's a different story of America than you've heard. You hear a story in America that the Constitution was the glorious moment. I'm going to tell you the Constitution was a perversion of the Mayflower under Masonic understanding that deliberately decided to try to separate us from being a moral people to being a legal people. We went ahead and denied our Christian faith to go ahead and to adopt almost Judaic principles of legalism. And when we did that, we opened the door whereby all these judges control us, where they take away your rights and say that you don't have those abilities. We literally had up here in Maine, our Supreme Court up here literally took away the right of people to have a veto against a corrupt business deal because the state court ruled, well, you don't have the power as citizens. The hell we don't. We're going to begin taking powers back for ourselves and understand that liberation is an individual thing that starts in every situation. But and look, to Julie's point here, this is a good question. To get more involved, man, you just have to do it. You don't have to attach yourself to me, but I will help if that helps. And we're going to get people aware. We're going to get people awake. And I am going to go ahead and just tell you what I think. And if I don't have an answer, I'll tell you I don't have an answer. And I'm going to go out there and throw bombs, metaphorically, not literally, because Lord knows I don't want to do that. But I'm going to let you know what's actually happening, okay? So, and hopefully that doesn't get spliced. I'm sure it will one day. So we're going to go back. I'll work through the questions from the beginning. Thank you to each and every one of you who's here. I actually have missed doing this. You know, the problem is I actually really like talking at like 8 in the morning, not 7 in the evening. I am an old man, and I like to go to sleep early because I wake up at 5 a.m. whether I want to every day. It's really, really annoying, but that's the truth of it. And also let me know show topics you want going forward. I will say next week the plan is to do one on digital currency. Another one is to do a reset on Asian geopolitics. I think it's really important. There's stuff going on there. I don't understand it, which means I need to read it. And then we'll see what ends up being. Maybe you guys will make a suggestion tonight, or events will overtake this. I do think as we come into the new week, new month, new weekend, there's going to be more violence. And I think that, you know, even if the Democrats tried to reel people back in the streets, it's not going to happen now. I mean, if you really understand BLM, if you really want to be woke, actually, and it might offend some of you, but I don't really care. Spencer Smith did this amazing video showing how it's an African witchcraft conjuring ritual. Believe it, don't believe it, but check it out and consider it. I'm sure the inimitable Mrs. Dana is going to, she's giving me the thumbs up already. And we're going to go ahead and show you. We are going to go ahead and rip the shade off your eyes and let you see the world is. Not what people are telling you they're doing, but what they're actually doing. Yes. So when you are screaming out the name, you know, when you're saying George Floyd, George Floyd, George Floyd, you're conjuring up the dead. I want you to understand that, and that just your words, please understand this.
It's witchcraft.
Your words have so much more power than you realize. Your beliefs are what shape this reality. Faith is the distance that between any 2 points. Why do I say that? Let me give you a mathematical proof. You want to get real autistic? If you travel half the distance between point A and point B to point C, and between point C and point B is a point D, will you ever reach it? And you know what you'd find out? That the mathematical reality of the universe is a parabola, right? It goes higher and higher and higher, but you never reach your goal unless you learn to make a leap of faith where you simply will something into being and jump over that gap. That's literally how the world jumps. And if we jump forward and we imagine our future, we need to be able to do the same thing. And that I am asking you to go ahead and understand things at that level, to understand that there are rules that are bigger and deeper than the mathematical empirical universe you've been taught to understand. And if you begin to understand that and you begin to open yourself up to insights that are greater than that, you might just begin to understand just how reality is controlled, how it's manipulated, and you will see the forces out there that are doing things, that are taking something that was once very sane and destroying it because they understand how to change the way your consciousness works. I am trying to give you back the gift of your mind so you can use that to save your soul. That's why I'm out here. What? Do a giveaway. Dana wants me to give something away. All right. Dana tells me I'm going to give something away. Here's what we're going to do.
Somebody's meant to have it.
Here's what we're going to do. We'll do. I was going to do Loyal Revolutionary. But you didn't bring Loyal. All right. You want me to give you my extra book? Oh, you can make me give this away? All right.
Yeah.
All right. So Dana. All right. We went through my book collection and we had doubles of my books. So I will give you a woke as heck book. If you want, we're going to do a donation. Here we go. If you want, or you can choose to give away. Whoever picks the most interesting show topic, we're going to make it a contest that me to use for next week. I'm going to give you my copy of, and I'm not getting paid for this. This is Forbidden Gates: How Genetics, Robotics, Artificial Intelligence, Synthetic Biology, Nanotechnology, and Human Enhancement Herald the Dawn of Techno-Dimensional Spiritual Warfare. by Tom Horn. The guy's brilliant. You can check him out on YouTube. He has his own channel. But if you guys pick a really good topic and you're interested, I will give you my extra copy, because it turns out before the wife and I met, we had our own separate copies of the book. Weird how that works. It's like we were meant to be together. Also, since she's not on camera because she's behind, we're actually shooting this in a different room than we usually do, hence the odd lighting. But I would say, since you can hear Dane in the background, Mrs. Say hello to the audience.
Hi.
Come on, do better than that. You got a little something.
Hi.
Hi. Do better than hi. All right. I know you are high. That's true. That's actually true. So, okay. So we will continue with the show. I'm going to go into your questions now, but we'll put the book up there. I want to remind people, once upon a time, 2 years ago, everyone thought this jerk didn't know what he was talking about. The coming Civil War. Go look on Amazon. Buy it before they ban it. You'll learn something. And if you want to understand how things got really funny, Pimp Myself Incoming, Red Lines and Hot Takes for the Coming Civil War. Go get that. Enjoy the books. They're cheap on Kindle, and you'll appreciate them. As usual, I was a couple steps ahead, and it will give you a lot to look forward to. Ask questions. I will answer them, and your support, by the way, does allow me to do this. Otherwise, I might have to go get a real job, and believe me, you don't want me to have a real job. Would not work good for anybody. I'm just kidding. Actually, what will happen in reality is I'm going to get back to book writing, is what I like to do. But I will have to balance things otherwise, and that's how it'll be. So,
everybody wants to talk about
dinosaurs.
dinosaurs.
You want me to tell them? All right. Well, we'll get down there. You know what? Maybe I'll put in the tinfoil.
Everyone's saying dinosaurs.
Dinosaurs?
I think you should talk about dinosaurs.
You want to talk about pre-Adamic man? You know, there's a rumor. You know, you listen to a lot of people. They say it's the fifth age of man. That there was. It's called gap creationism. But between Genesis 1 and Genesis 6, there was this idea that time operated differently. Remember, time is not a constant. One of the great mistakes we make is consciousness perceives reality as in time, because time is basically an inertial impact for how we make sense of the world around us. But if you think about it, God exists outside of time, and you know time is not constant because time is relativistic. Yet consciousness exists in all time frames. So consciousness is therefore greater and inclusive of time. Time, therefore, must be an inertial effect of consciousness. I'm not even high and I can do this these days. I mean, honestly, seriously, temporal dynamics is easy. Did I? Well, that's fine. No, don't say that. I didn't do that. Anyway. Okay, so anyway, we'll talk about dinosaurs if you want to talk dinosaurs. I like Earl Sinclair as much as the next guy. Not the mama. All right, let's see. We made it through another week, and we did, Joseph. Hope all is well down there in the Bluegrass State. Good to see you, John, my man out there. Buffalo Bill in the reality. Let's see. Chris, glad to see you. I hope all is well up there in Sportsman's Paradise, right? Blue Ridge Mountains. Good to see you, Andrew. What else we got here? Volunteering information, right? Andrew, Julie, glad to see you. Glad you're here. Sam, glad you're here. Alberto, how are you, brother? Hope all is well. Thomas wants me to declare New England independence. Man, I am all for that. When New England goes, we're taking Quebec with us because j'adore le Québécois et putain. We're going to take New Brunswick, Nova Scotia. We'll ask the Newfoundlanders, but they're coming. We're going to take the people on Prince Edward Island. And I've even made nice with the upstate New Yorkers. So that's pretty good. Rural Pennsylvania is with us. And you know what? I'm even trying to get through to the Massachusetts contingent. There's a lot of good people there. And unfortunately, there's a lot of people brought in there that don't know their head from the backside. And a lot of them want to have it. They need to go out. They need to go up to the wharf and take a swim. Anyway, all right. So, Patches, good to see you, brother. Glad you're here. Andrew said, had a Tetris moment this morning. Watch MSM, and every time you feel led by the narrative, ask. And man, that's it, bro. That's where it's at. What if this is not true, and why are they wanting me to believe this? And you know, so it's a great point. So what they want you to believe is that we are doomed to fight one another. And look, it may happen that way. It probably will, because the thing is, people are kind of weak-willed. You know, it's like the original Star Wars movie, where, you know, they went out there and like, these are not the droids you're looking for. You know, back before things got woke and it ended up being girl power comic book night at every some comic book. By the way, Disney apparently has lost so much money that they're now saying they're not going to give us woke movies. I don't believe it yet, but let's hope that that's right. That would be a major improvement. Good evening, Jared. Glad you're here. We talked about the minds of the New Albion Initiative. I will tell you that we had some really smart people there, and what we do understand is that we will need to work community by community to go ahead and secure ourselves and build a different sense of things. What I will say to you is, imagine a world, and this is a world that I'm not saying this because I have any specific secret knowledge, but it would not surprise me to live in a world where the America looks very different, and a lot of the big cities might not be here. People are already starting to exodus, but what we are hearing in the realm of intelligence, in the realm of prophecy, in the realm of even biblical scripture, if you read it the right way, certain cities may not be here in the future. And, if the pandemic comes back worse, if we get into a nuclear war, if we get into a civil war and there is, siege warfare, if you live in a New York, if you live in a Chicago or Los Angeles, those things, you're not going to survive that. And I told you back in February, get the hell out of the cities. If you're still there, what are you waiting for? I mean, money isn't worth living. I mean, honestly, it says, in the book of Luke, it says, you can't serve two masters. You can't serve mammon and God. If you serve money, you're going to die for money. You're going to basically sacrifice yourself for an idol. Get the hell out of there. Cities are going to be death traps. And I can't tell you what's going to kill you. It might just be bad Chinese food. But even if you die from eating cat, you need to get out of there. It's just not a natural way for people to live. It never has been. Every big city becomes a Babylon in time. I really believe that. And I know some people feel differently, but you're wrong, so that's okay. All right, nothing on the mainstream media about George Floyd, fentanyl in the system. Why and what purpose? Because you know what? Ultimately, that's the mythology. Thou shalt not question that George Floyd was a hero. This was a washed-up porn star who worked as a bouncer, okay? True story, video, picture, it didn't happen. You can find it if you want to. Don't recommend it, but it's out there. You can go ahead and find these things. But what happened is Keith Ellison, Muslim attorney general, black nationalist in Minnesota, decided to suppress the information and saw the perfect opportunity to get things running. And the problem is, you're not allowed to question black people in America if you're white. You can never say a black person's doing something wrong without them saying, that's racist. Well, you know what? It's not racist to say someone's being an idiot. And you know what? It's not racist for white people to hold black people to account for their behavior. It's racist to do the opposite of that. And it's time we start doing that. I would expect the same for a black person to a white person, so it doesn't really matter. What's right is right and what's wrong is wrong. And the fact is that George Floyd, Breonna Taylor, and some of these situations which are more problematic than others, I'm not saying that police always get it right, but ultimately this isn't about police. This is about destroying authority, law, and order, and creating people as a sacrifice. But I'll go a little deeper on this. The other reason why the elites like Black Lives Matter is not because elites really love black people. They don't. Look how they exploit Africa. What they like is the idea of having a group of people who are sick of them, who can be controlled, who will give them authoritarianism. And don't be surprised if the end game of this isn't to go ahead and have something terrible done to the black population by the angry middle majority in support of a government that removes them from the equation altogether in response to their very bad behavior, because frankly, they don't know any better. That's next level thinking. And the problem is, in the game of chess, we have a country full of champion checkers players. You have to be able to think 2 or 3 moves down the line. And if you can create the opposition, you can create the outcomes. That's the reality of it. And so for the blacks who are out there who listen to this, or any minority, be aware of what you're being manipulated into. It's something you need to be mindful of, because it's not going to end well for you. Being hated by a majority is not a good place to be. And that's what's going to happen as people see this writing. And I understand. Let's take this case of the kid name? Rittenhouse. Ultimately, the people he was shooting against, they weren't even black. It was 3 Jews. I mean, I know you're not supposed to say that, but honest to God, I mean, something isn't adding up. It's not kosher. This is not. If this is about Black Lives Matter, then why aren't we seeing blacks? And they're not in from Kenosha either. They bust them in from Chicago, Commie Central. And you want to know who it is? You want to know who made Barack Obama happen? This whole thing. Well, why don't you go back in time? Mike Ditka not running. Jerry Ryan, 7 of 9 boarding around with someone, and you literally had Jamie Dimon, if you want to see, a banker's prick, literally went out there and supported this guy because he was his bathhouse buddy. This is literally what ends up happening. This is the reality, and the guy has a weird background. CIA, Suharto, and people say Frank Marshall Davis. He came out of his background's in Indonesia. Huh? It's true. I'm giving you a straight line. This is like literally cocaine level truth.
That's shady.
It is shady, isn't it?
It's really shady.
I know. Michael motorcycle, man.
Tell us some more shady stuff.
Oh, you guys don't want no shady stuff.
Yeah, I want to know shady.
You know shady stuff.
I
You
want
live
to
in our
know
life.
shady
You know,
stuff.
everyone thinks Intel. Let me tell you what Intel is. People think Intel is like James Bond. It isn't. It's dorks, geeks, people who know too much, and people who have odd information trading things. It's contractors hanging out with nerds saying, well, I'll tell you this if you tell me that. That's literally what it is. It's real people.
Why don't you tell the story of how 4chan got to fly?
No, I don't. We'll do that another time. I'll do that's a good monologue. I will do that. You know, he will not divide us. Right? They know the story of 4chan. You think everyone here hasn't spent time in Pole? I want to say one thing though. Oh, well, what was his name? Shia LaBeouf and all that. They literally went ahead and they were able to by watching the flight patterns in the clouds, find a flag in a field in Kentucky. It was pretty impressive, actually. But what I want to say, speaking of that, you know, have you noticed the internet's gone crappy lately? And I'm not just talking about the big social media. You go to Godlike Productions, you go to 4chan, they're just brigading things so bad that you can't get any momentum going. And this is what we live in. We live in the age of peak, what would you call it, chaff. Right? What they do is they put a whole bunch of information out there that's utterly useless. And that's what we have. And I will tell you part of the story with Black Lives Matter that I believe. I believe as we head into a time where we're going to have real turbulence, that one of the reasons you're seeing all these riots being pushed is as we're busy fighting over that, worrying about that, talking about that, we're not watching as the backdrop for World War III is being set up. We're not complaining too much about the Civil War being pushed on us. We're not talking about the fact that the Federal Reserve is now literally buying apartment buildings. True story. Look it up at their open market operations. It really has been happening. We're not talking about any of those things. Why aren't we? Because we're too busy fighting one another. You know, that's what it is. Divide and conquer. Distract and defeat. That's what we are dealing with over and over and over again. And you know, and it's too hard to look around all of it. I mean, I give you little hints and crumbs, but honestly, it's beyond me too. It's really bad out there, and it's getting worse. But anyway, like I was saying, on 4chan, on Poll, and I haven't even enjoyed Poll this cycle. I spend more time on X than I do Poll, to be honest with you, because you actually have things to think about. At this point, it's just stupidity and repeating things mindlessly, and that's where we're at. And I wish there were places on the internet where you could get good information. I guess that's why you're watching videos. At least I'm giving you some stuff. You're learning a couple things. I did learn about an interesting book, though. I want to tell you this one. Let me, because I always like to tell you these obscure books, and I haven't read it yet, but we have some people here who are in really deep, so I'll share with you this one because it's pretty good, I think, but I haven't read it yet, so I reserve the right to say this is garbage, and I didn't realize it. But apparently it's pretty interesting because the CIA got pretty mad about this being out there, and therefore they went ahead and they had it removed, apparently, from what I've been told. Of course, that could just be a marketing thing. There's no better way to sell your books than to say it's been banned. But I was looking, let me see where I put it, because I moved it somewhere so I could find it. Chan Thomas, The Adam and Eve Story, The History of Cataclysms. Supposedly, this guy, and I haven't read it yet, but I've heard of this. You guys were asking about dinosaurs. I haven't gone down that far, but this is a story of some of the hidden archaeology. And look, whenever you put out information that you're not supposed to put out, you always put out some things that are wrong so you don't get in trouble for actually getting it right, so you don't get shot and have people visit you with black suits and black eyeballs. What you end up doing, yeah, Men in Black. That's what it is. It's demonic possession.
I'm telling you right now, if we have like black-eyed kids and Men in Black knocking on our doors, I'm just gonna bug out the roof and I don't know what I'm gonna do.
We'll exercise them. They're demons. That's what you do. You know how to do that.
Oh, I'm freaked out now.
Well, of course you said you want to go down the rabbit hole. No, I'm the Mad Hatter.
No, I did not.
The Mad Hatter, right? Maybe that'd be a good thing. Maybe I should get a hat. And speaking of which, I still haven't got my plaid wizard's hat. What are you guys waiting for, right? The apocalypse is coming in a couple months. You better speed it up. Anyway, okay, so where were we? So I was talking about the book. So anyway, apparently the belief is there are ages of man that were lost, and some of these things were hidden. Why do you think that people like John Kerry go bump around in Antarctica? They're doing archaeological excavations where they don't tell you things, you know? Those old Stargate movies, they knew a thing or two. And I've learned things in pieces, and you can hear things out there. People will tell you. There are people in this chat who can tell you things. I can't tell you everything, and no one knows every piece of it. But well, maybe someone does, but you got to begin hunting these things down for yourself. So if you have weird questions about that, we'll talk. But I did want to give you that book as a place you could go looking. Another place you might look, a book I got a copy of is Atlantis or the Antediluvian World by Charles Donnelly. And I will say, scholarship was much better before 1960. If you read old archaeology, you'll learn a lot more about the world than you would from Marxist history. Real truth, okay? What else do we got here? Encourage to see militias taking the streets to defend their towns from looting. Only criticism of the 17-year-old is that his shooting technique was off on the third guy he only wounded in the arm. Well, Andrew, you know what? Nobody's perfect, right? All right. In the game of rock, paper, scissors, rifle beats skateboard. That Sam, let me tell you something. You make that a bumper sticker and you find the right site to host that, you make yourself a couple $1,000s. Send me a check. Send me $50 when you do it, all right? All right, New Albion's move. Yeah, it's interesting. So let's talk about that. So New Albion's borders are crystallizing a little bit. It turns out that we've come to realize, and I've had some great conversations with some smart people, probably our western border is near the Missouri River, and then you kind of go to where the line is between the Union South and the Confederate South, and the rest of it's us. So we're all cool up here. We're rocking it in the Shire, having a good time. To all my friends up in the Dominion of Canada, let me reach out to you guys too, up in Ontario. We've claimed Manitoba because I like the way the lines look better on the map, as well as all my friends out in the Maritimes, including if the people we have.
You like the lines on the map? That's fine.
Yeah.
You're letting me.
Yeah. Well, you don't want to have a country that has unaesthetic lines, do you?
I wouldn't.
Would you want your country to look like a ball sack on the globe? Wouldn't that be terrible?
No, but
that's what Acadia National Park looks like.
The water does rise to certain areas.
I actually, you know what? It's actually interesting. Yeah, I mean, there is a thought. I will say this. That if there ends up being a major asteroid debris field, which supposedly we're moving through, and if you have a large enough, object dropped into the ocean, you would have a really big tsunami. Statistically speaking, the odds are it would hit the Pacific, which is bad news for people in the Pacific, but not such bad news for people in the Atlantic. Be mindful of these things. In the old times, actually, the Bible says, head for the wilderness and head for the mountains when things are bad. Things aren't good. Head for the mountains. Go for it. You just get property while you still can. I guess I should get the grassroots started in Texas. Ian, if you're really into that, shoot me an email, newalbion@protonmail.com. Texas is already working on their own thing. And I make friends.
We got peeps down there.
We do have peeps in New England. It's actually interesting. New England and Texas actually get along well. This is kind of a funny story, but we're both arrogant. We both have bushes. We both have a very inflated sense of our own history. We both have distinctive accents. We both have pre-American histories, which is actually a big piece of this. And we also agree that Washington does not serve our interests. We don't necessarily agree on what we want, but that's okay, because as Baptists as they are, one day we will be Puritans yet again, and you will mow that lawn. I did it today. I hate mowing the lawn. At heart, I'm a secret Appalachian at heart, because I actually don't like to do that, but that's neither here nor there. Eki, good to see you, man. You got to invite me on sometime. I like chilling with the California crew, and I love listening to some retro Fash Wave. Good stuff, brother. All right, what else we got here? Furries BTFO. That's it, man. If the suit fits, here's something you should say. If the suit fits, you cannot acquit. That's Johnny Cochran in reverse. How sharp am I? Let's see. 159 earthquakes in a 5-mile diameter in the last 3 weeks. Did you see that there was an earthquake in Michigan, 3.2, 5.1, Sparta, North Carolina? Things are spreading. Something is happening in the earth, And if you watch those magnetic pole shifts, it's moving. It's been moving quite a bit. There are quite a few people who think that if it moves a little more, we're going to see something really weird happen. Remember the movie 2012? Maybe they just inverted the numbers and it's really about 2021. They like doing tricks like that. And you remember in the movie in 2011, Danny Glover's sitting there as president, and they're having all these riots outside while they're talking about real issues. It's almost like life replicates reality, and that the people in charge have to tell you what's going to happen in some way that's supposedly fictitious. I'll tell you what, you can learn more from watching sci-fi movies about what's happening in the world than you can from actually watching what's out there on the news. Oh, yeah. One other thing we recommend, if you want to watch something that's interesting, there's a channel on YouTube called Dust that has some really interesting sci-fi shorts. Like I said, I'm not getting any money from any of these things. I'm just telling you what I find interesting. Deep fakes will be impossible to identify, and that's going to be a big problem going forward. But remember, you're going to have holograms as well, so it's not just going to be deep fakes that you see on screen. It's going to be deep fakes you see with your eyes. You're going to have to figure out. You cannot trust your eyes. You got to learn. What's my quote? Is it from 2 Corinthians? You got to learn to see through faith. You really are going to have to understand things as they are and the nature of things, and you're going to have to understand motives. I mean, look, we've been playing on training wheels for a long time, right? We've been worried about our comforts and we've been worried about what's nice, but now we're going into a world where we're going to make choices that have consequences. And I don't mean, am I getting a bigger house, a nicer car, or a big raise? I mean, your life and your soul are going to be at risk. Life just got interesting. Welcome to the frigging labyrinth. Don't let the bull give you the horns. This is what the world is getting like. And I'm going to tell you, it's going to get more like this, not less. And you know that because you see that's what's being pushed out there. I'm just telling you the truth. You don't have to like it. Helter Skelter, right? I know someone was real happy I was mentioning Tavistock, so we'll see if I get in trouble for that. But, when you look at the Beatles and what they actually did, and you begin to understand how they weaved Eastern mysticism into this, it's really one more effort. Art is nothing but a cultism masquerading as entertainment. My thoughts on Millie Weaver, Shadowgate. Alex Jones shows he has no balls, not sticking up for her. Alex Jones is a weird cat who takes care of himself, and I think that I think he, even though he put some good information out there, I think he has the heart of a charlatan when it comes down to it. As far as what Millie Weaver did when you watch the Shadowgate documentary, which by the way is very much worth watching, I did choose to watch it. You learn a lot more about the ways in which falsity is constructed around you and all the sort of lies the government likes to tell. It's a good documentary. It's definitely worth watching. But I know a lot of people were mad at her where they were saying that she was doing it just to make money. And it was a very weird deal where apparently her mother had some dispute and she was thrown in jail. I honestly think it was a message designed to shut up the alternative media. And the people in the alt media have always been a little squirrely. But now's not a time to be squirrely. We're going to have to be brave. If I'm the last man standing and they come after me, I count on some dudes to show up with guns to protect me from the people with guns who are going to try to hurt me. That's you guys, I'm up here in Maine. Hunt me down. I'm not hard to find. I'm the guy with the beard. Yeah, you got to protect the queen, as we all know.
They have to rescue me from the tower.
Indeed, they do. That's true. Remember, you know what? You started as Snow White. You're ending as Rapunzel. You might have to go Fox News blonde. Have you ever noticed, by the way, every chick on Fox News has blonde hair? Unless you're like Latino or something, you have to have blonde hair.
I just had a vision of like the end of the Princess Bride when they set Andre the Giant on fire and they're trying to get into the castle and they're dragging poor Wesley behind in the car and like how that would be.
To the pain.
That's how it be.
Yeah, it is. Absolutely. It's true. Well, that's what's going to be. It's going to be weird times. I keep thinking to Noah and the Ark with this virus, but to make an Ark this time, it takes everyone to be on board, not just building a boat. So it's kind of true. What I would say to you is that what we are experiencing, when you think about Noah and the Ark, this is my own Christian take on it, is that you are going to make a choice. Why was Noah saved? Noah was saved because he was pure in his right in his generations. And when you look at the story in depth, and the Book of Enoch does a good job of this, the Book of Giants also does it, you can read Jubilee, some other things, is what happened is man's DNA got corrupted, okay? This is the story that really doesn't get told. And some people tell it in a weird sort of alien way, like Eric Von Daniken did, or Zechariah Sitchin, or any of those people, where they said aliens came through, like Giorgio Stenocolis would say, and, it was the aliens, that they went ahead and they worked our DNA. And then you hear these tales, Tsoukalos, that's his name. That story of Enki and Enlil you read, but the truth goes deeper than that. That what we have literally is divinity on earth, in the sense that God came down and did these things, and there were ages of man before this where man had failed before, and that's what one of the things that's out there. So before the garden, was there a world? Probably. Absolutely, there was. There's archaeological evidence of this, but it actually doesn't contradict the Bible. What it tells you is of a time before time, and that there was something else happening. And do we know that world other than by scant evidence and little archaeology? No. But that's why things are kept secret. That's why the Smithsonian's so well funded. Their job is to hide the truth from you, and they've done it for years. They literally got created to go ahead and dig up serpent bounds. You can go read newspaper after newspaper from 1860 to about 1910 and hear about the excavations of giants and bones that are 10 feet tall and 20 feet tall, and you find armor that was built for Bronze Age warriors like this. And why was all that hidden? Because they wanted to tell you a story that we were the creators of our own destiny, that Darwin was the voice of evolution, and that man could be a god unto himself. The occultism that exists actually has scientists as its priest, always has. And then the idea that science and method would provide truth has always been a falsity. But you're not allowed to know this because you're not given good data. Same reason I messed up on Coronavirus Central. I read the data and I believe the data, but the data is wrong. And that's what I keep telling you, that you keep looking for answers when things are being hidden from you. And the further back you go, the closer you get to the truth. It's weird how that works. But I do think that as we go forward, really, the question is not about saving everybody, but the question is saving yourself and giving testimony where you can save others. Now, as far as building an ark, what I can say is up here in the rural areas, we have to support one another. And one day, I can actually imagine if things get real funny, I might just throw up the flag and say, come defend the castle. I mean, and you'll appreciate the irony of it one day of how we think about things up here in Maine. But that's another story. The time of the man is over. Do we leave for New Albion? Do we walk away holding our heads high? We tried to save this nation, says the Lady of the Wood, according to John. It is. The time of the man is over. It is. Of course it is.
I knew it was. I knew it.
Of course it is. Now I think it all makes sense. It's our good friend John.
Is that Galadriel? Time of the elves is over.
We should fade. You know, Galadriel has a really interesting story. If you've read the Silmarillion, she was actually pretty hardcore, but she had her own temptations she had to fight through. I have to remember, it's been a while since I read all these things here. All right, Julie, glad you are emailing. So absolutely. Give me a second because the stupid thing is more than. Thank you, by the way, for listening. You're listening to, we should call it Free Atlantic Radio, Tom Unscripted, the coolest show on Friday night where you learn all sorts of stuff that you actually have to wonder if it's true. And then after a while, you think, people always ask me this question, how do I know all this stuff? I've been around a long time, man, and I've been reading things. I've learned some things. And you know what? I pray a lot. That's the first key to learning. I read a lot. That's the second key to learning. And I don't believe what's told to me, which is maybe even in some ways just as big a key. Okay. But yeah, getting connected to people is absolutely essential to your survival, and we will help hook people up. And that's one of the things I want to do. You know, Marf does that good. Marf Fugel, what's his name? Adam. We should do that. We need to build more networks for people, including for people outside. We can say aspirationally Atlantic regions, you know? Marf is good, yeah.
Everybody go love bomb his channel.
Is that the new phrase, love bomb?
Yeah.
Okay. We're seeding people around the internet.
If I post a channel link, go love bomb it.
So Marina writes, hello, Tom, Dana, and everyone. We've been on the road for the last 2 weeks going through Nevada and Utah to Yellowstone, and now we're back to California. Love the journey. Bet you're seeing some wonderful areas. Don't go back to California. Just keep driving east. I'm just kidding. Well, actually, I'm not. But I'm glad to hear you had a wonderful trip. I actually had a friend who was up at Glacier National Park recently, so I've been hearing a lot about that area. Beautiful area, to be honest with you. Let's see. From your CBC podcast, I've been digging into the manipulation of SARS-2. Evidence out there with SARS-1 was man-made. Why do you think America's experts won't say this is man-made? Very easy. They don't want the scrutiny that comes forward with it. If people knew that SARS-1 was man-made, they would tell scientists they couldn't play with their diseases. The military doesn't want that. The government doesn't want that. The people don't want that. The reason why everyone still wants to believe COVID is not man-made is because if they believe that, then we don't have to go to war. And that's one of the things. It's just a lack of accountability. I really think it's that simple. I'm trying to I'm opening up beer number 4, Nostrovia. I hope you're enjoying it. To try to keep the morning show, Coffee with Tom, every now and then, and those are nice on a Saturday and Sunday morning. I might do, you know what, I was telling Dana and I were talking about, in about a month here, I might actually do a sort of maybe a Saturday or a Sunday sort of service where we look at some things from a Christian perspective as an additional show. It would maybe be, I mean, everything a person does is inherently attached by the way they're doing it, but there's stuff out there I just need to tell people that I'm convicted to say that I know it isn't for everybody, but honestly, people ask me how I understand the things are. Part of it's intuition and a whole lot of it's prayer. You know, you can go backwards to go forward. It really is that way, and you can learn a lot. So let's see what else we got. But yeah, I've been doing some of the little snippets, and I'll try to do more vignettes. It's been hard because we had some guests that were here. It was nice to have guests, but it's, you know, good to get back to the routine, and that allows me to spend more time with you guys. All right. Andrew says, I think more time needs to be devoted to exploring the final solution, the Matrix-like final solution to chop off the master brains. Everything else is futile. Well, I will tell you, Andrew, that if you want to know what it is, the answer is to go backwards rather than go forwards. We need a new dark age, and I know that will sound very strange to you, but that's actually what I believe. we have technologies that take us away from a happy life. Is the purpose of life to have a high quality of life, to find oneness with God, meaning a family, or is the purpose to have more stuff and try to transcend life? If you think the purpose of life is to get the most out of it, then what does technology do for us? Now, I'm not trying to sound like I'm neo-Amish, but what I would say to you is that everything that creates separation between men also creates separation between us and God, and creates separation between the way we see the world. So when you ask what we need to do, what we need to do is unplug and jack out. That is where we're going to get to. But instead, what we do is plug in and jack off. That's the problem of the way the world actually works. And I could make that much more complicated, but for the purposes of this, we'll make it sort of shorter. Although I like the idea, I like the way you're thinking about it. So I will probably try to talk about more solutions in that, about how we need to do that. But I would say this: AI is a disaster for humanity. And we assume that a foreign intelligence will behave like our own. And we also assume that it's just going to simply be there and not be used by something. I think that that's kind of a mistake. We make the assumption that we live in a mechanistic universe, which is a very strange thing because we ourselves are different. Of course it. No, I know that. I'm at school. I can turn into early shows till mid next month. BLM. Yeah, I'm not a BLM fan. So let's see. Hail. Good to see you, Bob. Hope all is well down there in Mass. Let's see. I can tune into early shows if I know you're broadcasting off to sign up for alerts. The thing about my early shows is I don't know when I'm going to do them. I wake up and my mornings, I do one of three things basically. I record a show for you guys, which I do for the Monday, Wednesday, Friday shows, and I try to do them actually on either Saturday or Sunday, Tuesday and Thursday, and I do that quite intentionally because that lets me have them up early in the morning. On the other days, I tend to sometimes get on a soapbox if something's pissed me off and say something, or I sit and read. And I'm really pleased. I've been catching up on my reading. By the way, I want to thank Don for the book he sent. Absolutely awesome of you. Thank you. And I'll mention on the other show. So I wasn't expecting that, but it's really nice. If you have something really, really interesting, or you have really, really good intel or something you want to share, send it along to me. I read everything, even if I don't get to comment immediately. My inbox gets pretty full, but I'm doing the best I can. Especially since I've had to take care of the missus because, right now we've been working through some health issues, and that's something we deal with. So just the way it is. Yeah. Right?
Yeah.
All right. I have to get going to do things. Cheers. Okay. Alerts aren't working well. No, of course the alerts don't work well. The alerts would work fine if I was out here talking about how Black Lives Matter is saving the universe. Let me tell you something. There are no accidents. There's just lousy technology. Someone gives you the old junker car. That's what I got here. Let's see. Ian, what is a good pick to pick up for someone in the banking system besides the creature for Jekyll Island? That is a good question. Let me look at that. It's a better question than I'm ready to answer at this moment. There was a book by the woman. She worked for the Federal Reserve Bank. I got to look up the name of it. I'll find it for you. In fact, shoot me a quick email to remind me to look for it, and I will look this weekend and see if I can find it, because there is a good book on it that's much more recent that tells you how that actually works. For the show topic, dinosaurs. You guys want me to do a whole show on dinosaurs? You know what? I would consider, I tell you what. Would it be cool if I did a show on the theory of pre-Adamic civilizations? That'd be cool, right? I'd have to do a little research. And that's not an easy thing to research.
No, but it might be cool.
It might be cool. I'm going to shuffle that with an idea to try to look at that. For me to do that would take quite a bit of time, and there are books I have to read on it. They are on the stack. They're not at the top of the stack. But I will try to get to that. What I would say is that there is a suggestion that I've heard that in a previous time that the nature of the size of the planet and the composition of the atmosphere may have been sufficiently different to allow for different sizes and shapes of animals. I mean, we assumed, for instance, all right, so people say that dinosaurs are from X million years ago because of carbon dating, because we assume carbon-14 dates at a standard half-life, but the half-life assumes that the conditions on the planet have been the same, and that's the assumption, this kind of trick that gets you led the wrong way. And you can find all sorts of weird outliers that disprove this, like where you find trilobite and shells.
Growing pain process.
Yeah, it is. Yeah, the planet shifts itself a lot more than people know, and it changes itself a little bit. I mean, it's just one of those things. Climate change happens in much bigger and weirder ways than people assume, and not for the reasons you're told. Well, all right. So what else we got here? Let's see. Incoming is a great book. Thank you. No, I don't want a real job. I can write books. If I really wanted to just make money, I know the books I could write to make a lot of money, and I just write them pseudonymously. And I could just write books that I could write I could write a sequel to White Fragility. You know, it'd be kind of funny if I did that. I could literally be like, white people are bad and need to shut up. You know, by what would you say, Maya Brown?
I don't think that you would have the time to learn the kind of language that they use now.
Oh no, I would say I went to your school, but I got kicked out.
Like transgender rainbow.
No, I'm not gonna use that. Yeah, I know. I can't use that. I can do the Care Bear stare. That's about the same thing.
I can't even understand what they're saying half the time. It's like, you offended my blah, 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 blah.
What they're saying is that everyone is a snowflake. That's all it is. It's snowflake.
No, what they're saying is that they have a mental illness.
They do have a mental illness. I am convinced the character and ideology of the leaders of a nation are meaningless if the character of the population is garbage. I agree with you, Jared. That is very well said. And you know, why is the character, garbage? It's because there was no authority that was put forward. You know, actually, if you want to go back, it's not complicated. It's that the church got subverted, entertainment got corrupt, fathers were kicked out of the home, and the state educated the kids. But they've been trying to do this since Plato and before that.
This has been around since the dawn.
That's absolutely that. Yeah, that's right. Real jobs equal slavery. Wages get BTFO'd, right? Look, I've worked real jobs. I mean, I've been director at corporations. I've done things before. I know how to do real work as far as that goes. But honestly, I just don't have the energy to lie to you. I'm going to tell you the truth. That's what it is, you know? Let's see. I jumped over from a Neuralink live summer update. Messages I think our medical experts are. I think Neuralink can be used when antigens are damaging our lung. That could be true. We'll have to look, yeah. So, Phallic Doctor, great screen name. Hi, Sweetie Pie from Bangkok. All right, fun name. These post office coin shortage programs are BS. Yes and no. Let's talk about the coin shortage. I'm glad you mentioned that, and I'm probably going to mention it this week. It's smart of you to jump in there. This is preparation for digital currency. They're trying to suck money back up. You've noticed they've had shortage of bills. Look as early as, I've heard as early as the second week of September to see a major difference happen. And I am hearing, and I don't know if it's true or not, but if that happens, they might go ahead and solve the debt problem by inflating the currency. The Federal Reserve Bank said they're going to do that. Jerome Powell said he's going to do that. What does that mean for you? It means your dollar's going to be worthless because when money printer go burr, and the toilet paper shortage starts being covered by dollar bills. You understand? So if you have assets, you better be investing them. You don't need liquid currency right now. You want to put it in hard assets. And a hard asset is not a piece of paper. It's something you can own and defend. Smart people I know are making those moves. Wink, wink. All right. That was what wink wasn't for you. It was for someone else. Let's see. Thoughts on the coming FDA approval for LSD and psilocybin? Okay. Drug culture, right? See, I can't talk about drugs because I've never used them in my life, right? And so what I would say is that what drugs do. Actually, this is actually interesting. So let's talk about why I think they're proving psilocybin and LSD. I think they're proving them because they open areas in your mind. But the problem is when your mind is open, you're not necessarily in there alone. You become aware of other things in the world. And for instance, if you were to have, let's say that a certain bearded person had a first trip at one time where they were around and they sensed demonic entities that were in that space, or you might call it a bad trip, that if you did not have the context to understand what you were dealing with, you might find yourself the subject of things. It's like people play with Ouija boards and suddenly found that things don't go away from them. So I am skeptical about the ability for people to use things like that for recreational drugs without an awareness of what they're actually doing. It's one thing when you have a fully developed sense of self where you have gone ahead and you understand and you can use these things. Otherwise, what I think they're doing is trying to create an ease for people to go ahead and be occupied. And whether that's being occupied by their own stupidity or occupied by things that are external to them. One of the things that I actually believe we see happening, if you look at things like CERN we've talked about, we look at other things, that the effort is to create an opening in people's minds where as we make this 5G network, it'll be easier and easier for other things to float in there. The leadership wants this transhumanist hybrid civilization. So what is that? What they've realized is they're afraid they can't control AI, so they want to merge AI with humanity, thinking that suddenly that will somehow make them in control. In truth, all it's doing is going ahead and putting a smiley face on our new AI overlords. And remember, when you start understanding science and where these things came from, these seances, even use the example of what was someone was telling me about Francis Crick. Francis Crick, it's true. Francis Crick was high. I forget what he was high on. He was on, maybe it was psilocybin, it might be LSD, but that's where he discovered the double helix structure. It came to him, and it's amazing how many of these technologies that keep us separated but make our lives better came to people in flashes of insights under drug-induced haze. So yeah, you can learn things and you can become aware. The ascended masters of Blavatsky, right? But when you're borrowing from the occult, what you're ultimately choosing is you're taking devices that aren't of God, and you've got to be real careful with that because it can go real badly. Because even if you get something that just say it's a gift without a string, let's pretend that that's actually what happens, and maybe it is with certain technologies. Ultimately, what is the motives of it? Because if someone gives you a diagram for a Trojan horse, you better be careful what happens when the gates of Troy open, right? But I think, in the end, I mean, my thought on drug policy, I will say this, is that you ultimately have the moral responsibility for yourself. You have the right to try the things you're going to try. I support as a legal thing having drugs that are manufactured be illegal. And I would say LSD, from my understanding of it, is quite a lot stronger than psilocybin. So I would be much more likely to support things like psilocybin, ayahuasca, something like that. Yeah, things that are natural. Pigulatum, yeah, Syrian rue. We will take Roxbury also. Exactly. That's something.
Given to us to be used responsibly,
Brian, who do you think's turning more in his grave, Walt Disney or Henry Ford? Look at who the Ford Foundation gives to. And I know you know what I'm asking by that question. I'll let you think about that one. That's a terrible one, man. All right, John McClane, Disneyland, the Song of the South being played at their theme parks. The thing is, whenever I think of Song of the South, I think of that Alabama song, which is a very different one. Song of the South, sweet potato pie, shut your mouth. But no, I know that's the one. It's the yeah. I'm trying to remember how's that start. You always know these things. I can't believe you don't know this. It was a good movie. I just.
That wasn't it, wasn't it? No, that wasn't it.
All right. I task you to go find the lyrics and then provide some singing for this.
No.
Or at least give me a bar so I know what it sounds like. All right.
I think it might have been Zippity Doodah.
Is that Zippity Doodah, Zippity Day, wonderful?
What a wonderful day. Plenty of sunshine headed my way. Zippity Doodah, Zippity Day.
Yeah.
That's it.
That's it. You're right. That's right. You're right. She did. So let's give credit to Dana.
I want copies of Johnny Appleseed, Paul Bunyan's story, and Pecos Bill. I want those.
Pecos Bill. That's random.
Yeah, I want those stories.
All right.
From my childhood.
Okay. Well, we'll look for it. We can do that. Actually, we should find a book of old nursery. That'd be good to have. Pro tip. Keep hard copy records of anything you're going to want to read. There's a reason why my library's growing. Don't assume you're going to be able to have access to the internet on your terms forever. That's going to change. I guarantee you that. That's going to be the personal banking system on your social credit score. We should do one on social credit score. I should do a show on that, but not next week. The week after that, we'll do it, if I remember. You guys remind me if I don't, and I'll think about it. Another hot topic, speaking of fungus, the fungus found in Chernobyl is being used by a company as a cure for COVID-19 because of its gene repair abilities. That's actually interesting. I don't know much about it. If you got anything on it, send me something. That sounds off topic. Why is the enemy of the left Russia, and why is the enemy of the right China? Well, I will answer you this, because if you have three enemies set against each other, you have a stable triangle. That if you have, let's pretend we call America Oceania, and let's pretend we call Russia Eurasia, and let's pretend we call China East Asia. Well, you can always ally with East Asia against Eurasia, or you can ally against Eurasia, with East Asia. And why does that end up working? Because what's happening is the left and the right, okay, are just going out there and presenting different blame stories that they're all part of the same global system. Fundamentally, America does not hate Russia. America has never hated Russia. And remember, Barack Obama, at the left, he goes over to, what's his name, the guy who was the president for a minute there between Putin. And he says to him that, once I get elected, we can do a deal. This happens all the time. Medvedev, thank you. That this happens over and over. Yeah, you did. This happens over and over and over again. But this is why are they doing it? Because ultimately, it's good election talk. Trump is going to say that Biden's soft on China, which is true. Biden's going to say Trump is soft on Russia, which is true. And the reason this is true is because Trump is closer to a Christian, audience who actually likes Putin and despises the left, and because Biden has a bunch of communists running around who think that Mao was great instead of, someone who was a mass murderer. And whatever you believe is worse reflects your viewpoint, And the thing is, the media. I will say one thing: the media has been so abysmal this cycle; they have destroyed any credibility. I will say, if there's ever a tribunal for war crimes at the end of the Civil War, if this ends up happening that way, if we go down that path, I would say the media should be held complicit as the provocateurs who caused this. They literally created the Fort Sumter, all of them.
Tucker didn't.
Well, maybe Tucker didn't, but there were a few people who weren't bad. The guy who does The Intercept is good. There's a couple people, but there's not many.
No, mainstream media though.
Matt Taibbi's not terrible.
Tucker gets to live.
All right, Tucker would probably be up in Maine anyway.
Yeah, he can hang out with us.
But yeah, the right just hates communism and the left hates Christianity. It's true, by the way. So whatever. All right, technocracy. That's the end game. Everything else is deceit to secure technocratic dystopia, economy based on resources, and eugenicist poll numbers. Yes and no, but the thing about technocracy is, what is technology, right? Technology is trapping of light in what?
I have the rest of Zippity Doodah coming back to me.
Okay, well, that's good. So technology is nothing more than the trapping of a light in a machine, and eventually they want to do it to us. This is just a soul trap. That's what it is. But technocracy is that, and it's the promise of cheating death. And how do you cheat death? By choosing unlife. The zombie future might be a little more mechanical than people think, but Raven knows. Raven always has good stuff, by the way. You know what, by the way, Raven, if you decide you're good enough, you give me a buzz. I would give you a show just to talk about weird stuff if you want on the networks. You're that good, man, and I appreciate your work. All right, Lyle, good to see you, buddy. I hope all is well out there. I did that same road trip twice from Minnesota to Yellowstone to California, and he's outside Oakland. I hope you're okay. Let's see. That's racist. Let's see. We miss you, man. And son, let's see. I heard that George Floyd didn't really die. That's possible, man. I don't know. I mean, who knows, right? People disappear all the time.
Didn't you at one point say you wanted?
I have heard that from other
proof of life or death there.
Well, yeah, no one saw the body. We did say that. Yeah, I do remember that.
Wait, so there was no body in that?
No, there was a closed casket.
Gold-plated casket?
No.
There wasn't a body in that?
All rims, no body.
What? Okay, that
the
makes
more
sense.
You know.
That makes sense. Yeah.
Well, I mean, some people do choose to have closed caskets, but I mean, still.
It was like glass and gold.
I don't know. I wasn't there.
Was it
Don't believe what you see, man. I don't know. I wouldn't have a hard time believing a black guy OD'd, but I would say this.
He did OD.
But I would say this. Chauvin and Floyd had done work together before. There's a lot in that story that's very funny. More than half the burned businesses were black owned. Yeah, no. I mean, remember what the Floyd protests riots are really doing is they're destroying small business. And they're destroying small business to destroy the middle class and to make you that you are dependent on the people at top so that you have to answer to them. They're destroying all the means of distribution, So the means of production can be taken for the people, and ultimately the means of distribution is already the new dictatorship of the proletariat, except they're not going to be really proletariat. They're going to purge the other ones. So that will be one of the things. Thank you, John, by the way. I appreciate that. Let's see here. Actually, John might get a book sent his way. We'll see if people don't do it. Let's see. Hit the like button. Thank you, Black Betty. Let's see. George Floyd has a bigger penis. White people fear that black people are physically stronger. I'm sure I'm sure that white people feel like the intellectual advantages that are in the aggregate make us have no chance at conflict against other people.
Don't have the genetic makeup that come out of the place that they did. We're different.
Yeah, that's true. That's RK selection you're talking about. That's absolutely true. Yeah, it's
not racism. It's just facts. I mean.
And by the way, I'm just reading what people are writing. By the way, so if I say something untoward, it's your fault. Don't blame me. I'm just here doing my thing. Thanks, Patches. By the way, I appreciate that also. Let's see. In Kenosha, they are protesting someone who had a warrant for raping a 15-year-old girl after breaking in. They called the cops on him because he was trying to another house and could have been a victim. Lyle nailed it, man. I mean, that's it. And this is their hero. They're literally celebrating child rapists. So you want to know what happens? These are evil people. There's no other word for it. It's evil. I mean, if you're okay with child rape, you are the problem. You deserve to be strung up with the same other people. I'll say it. It's fine. I believe it. Never heard of any of them. Did you do an episode on them? Maybe. Are they Federal Reserve? I don't know what this is in context to, so you have to remind me, Ian. Maybe a show on exploitable weaknesses of the Matrix brain. I could do a show on AI that would be interesting. If you want to read a book that will get you thinking the right way, if you're going to talk about this, you should probably read the Bostrom book, Nick Bostrom's book. I want to say it's called Super Intelligence. It's a really good one it'll introduce you to the subject. And if you want to understand transhumanism, you probably should read Kurzweil. There's also that book. It's called The Big Nine. That's pretty good on these sort of topics, and it'll give you a feel for what happens. Kurzweil's is called The Singularity is Near. But you can go ahead and read some of these things, and you'll understand the weakness. If you do want to know the weakness of fighting AI, is that it does not do a good job predicting unpredictable behavior. So in the same way that a rabbit dances around a car and jumps in ridiculous directions, it actually is a surprisingly effective prey response against a predator that's smarter to go ahead and behave erratically, because randomness makes them have to make a 50-50 choice rather than being able to outsmart them. So if we have enough of us who are making 50-50 choices with low risk odds, if every one of us plays a 2-7 offsuit, you can outsmart AI. But what you got to learn to do is not tip your hand. They can read you better than you can read yourself. And that is one of the tricky things. So learning how not to reveal who you are by not doing what you've done before is going to be a big part of it. It's going to be weird. I mean, honestly, before this is all done, you're going to look like Z5 Battlebrox. Beaverbrox. I said that so. For those of you who appreciate Hitchhiker's Guide to the Galaxy.
We gotta watch that.
You don't know who or what to believe anymore, Julie. Listen, here's who I believe.
Join the club, man.
I believe Jesus Christ. Yeah. I believe that. I believe the Lord's our Savior. I believe the Bible teaches truth. And I try to use that to guide me. What I do every single day, I pray for wisdom to come upon me. I pray that the Holy Spirit will guide me, and it gives you. I will tell you, if you have a conversation with God, you will get answers if you ask earnestly. And I know you guys are like, oh, that's ridiculous. Why is that ridiculous? You know, it's no less ridiculous than anything else in this world. And the fact is, you know, we have edges out there. Now, at this point, you think God likes the idea of people giving up their souls? Pro tip, he doesn't. All right. A cardioid restraint for that long will kill you no matter what's in your system. Agree, Lau. And one of the things that was really pathetic was that the medical examiner wasn't willing. He said, on one hand, he said that much amount is 4 times what will kill you, but I'm not going to say that's what killed him. Okay.
It came out in the report with the body.
I know it did. I know it
the
did.
Entire talk screen.
Don't believe everything you hear. It's absolutely true.
His own meth stash, too.
So it's true.
Yeah.
So we get. He did OD. Yeah, I mean, and look, I don't want to make it. It is. I mean, I don't want to trivialize man's death, but so
no, it was horrible.
It is a bad way to go. It's a terrible way to go. Self-inflicted, though.
Nobody deserves.
I mean, you assume, but
I don't care who you are. Nobody deserves to die like that.
Yeah. Well, if you were a child rapist, maybe. Well, you're not as mean.
I just don't like to see suffering.
Yeah.
Even if it is self-inflicted.
I don't necessarily want to see suffering, but I do believe the punishment should fit the crime.
Those Flocka documentaries mess with my head for days.
Which ones?
Flocka ones.
Oh, yeah, I remember. Yeah, the Flocka is the new drug that the kids are using down in Florida. Everything bad comes up through, like, Tampa.
It's been around and we just didn't know it.
Well, that's good. Well, we're not here to have drug culture.
Into, like, demon-possessed super zombies. These people have...
Sweet.
These people exhibit superhuman strength. They're able to withstand bullets.
I hope they can hear you. I can hear you.
They're able to withstand bullets and stabbings and like they have superhuman strength, and it's
FLAKKA if you want to look up what the drug that's getting popular out there is. So let's see. Technocracy, Rockefeller, Brzezinski, Trilateral Commission, crash economy, replaced with biometric slavery. Absolutely true, man. That's where they are going. You know, it's like I was watching a video. You see the phoenix in the chamber of the UN Security Council, right? Why is it there? Because they have to burn everything to put it back forward. That's the magic they like to do, man. Peak chaff. Thank you. I'm glad you like the term. There are many distractions. Let's see. Hot topic.
Our American Eagles and
I think you're right about that too. I think there's a reason why Franklin wanted to be the turkey and got overruled. But anyway, Hot topic. CCP President Xi Ling booted from party maybe and Three Gorges Dam filled up to the brim, one butterfly flap away from collapsing. It's really interesting to watch what's happening to the floods there in China and how much it's destroying their food supply. Food supplies are getting destroyed everywhere. Dana does a really good job covering that stuff, but it is crazy. It's the derecho that they had in, in Iowa and whatnot, and what we're seeing and what these floods are going to do from the hurricane. It's not good. All right. Holy water. Let's see. Do I think Atlantis is real? I think Atlantis did exist at one point in time. There was the rumor of two major civilizations. One was Atlantis, one was Lemuria or Mur, some mass event. There have been things found in the Gobi Desert and in deserts in India that suggest much higher technology way back when. And what was it? Steve Quayle was on Hagman's show, and he was talking about the pyramids, I think, and that they literally couldn't build them today when they tried. No, it was Hodges who did that, Dave Hodges. And he was saying that they literally couldn't reconstruct them today if they wanted to. So back when someone knew something we didn't, or something we're not allowed to know, although remember, the government is, they say technology in the government might be as much as 1,000 years more advanced, and that we are now just suffering the back end of a breakaway civilization. So why is AI happening? Why does Moore's law seem true? Because we're only seeing parts of the puzzle. But I do think that once upon a time, the Earth might have looked very different, and I don't know all the details of it, although what's really interesting, if you want to go down a theoretical rabbit hole, is the Piri-Reis map. It's a map from the 1500s in Turkey that shows the contours of Antarctica accurately, which suggests once upon a time Antarctica might have been an area you could get to much easier in terms of the weather and whatnot. And it just, there's weirdness in it. I don't know the story of it. You know, you could look at Operation High Jump. You could look at how Robert Byrd went insane. You could look about the rumors of New Schwabenland that was supposed to be created down there. The fishbowl. Yeah, there's some people who believe the hollow earth theory too. I mean, I think the hollow earth theory is more defensible than the flat earth theory myself, but what do I know? Let's see. Besides your channel, there's almost nothing interesting left on YouTube. What is the YouTube alternative? DLive is where the interesting stuff is, Patches, if you want to check it out. Who are some channels we like? Dabu's interesting. He kind of goes weird on some of his spirituality sometimes. It's annoying, but who else do we like? RP Nation's okay.
All the riots.
I tell you what, if you're a Christian mindset and you have an eye for prophecy, Mike 444 here on YouTube will certainly be interesting. If you're willing to believe even a third of that, you'll lose sleep at night.
I like him a lot.
I like Richie from Boston. He has some stuff that's good. He's still over here. Who else do we like?
Vince James, Red
Who? Oh, yeah, Vince James got banned from here. He's over on DLive. He's pretty good if you want like a straight politics honest assessment. I mean, if you want things that are weird, I mean, I love Steve Quayle because he just says weird stuff that's out there but a lot of it ends up being true. Surprised people hear this. Stephen Bindanoon, I think, does a good job over at Israel News. I think that what's his face? Yeah, Rick Wiles does. True News is absolutely awesome. TRUNEWS. I mean, there's stuff out there you can find. You have to know where to look, though, and if you don't already know where to look, no one else is going to tell you. I mean, if you really like doing rabbit hole stuff, I mean, it's kind of hard to find like someone who just does it because there's a lot of people who know the stuff, but they don't really like to talk about the stuff. And I will say there are generally better podcasts than there are YouTubes because the podcast audience base, you don't get banned the same way. You also don't make money the same way, and you don't get sponsors the same way. Oh, I don't know. I'm not going to try. Screw Spotify. 10 cents can go. I got 10 cents for them right here. All right, Raven, good to see you, bro. I hope you're going to be glad. I'm happy to have you, Lamprey. Glad you're here. Kitten videos. I am the main man. Thank you. Think an asteroid in the Pacific would be the counter-wave tsunami to break Three Gorges Dam. It would have to land near there, and it'd have to be big, but it could theoretically if it went up to Yangtze. Indeed. Let's see.
Do you think it would?
It could. I mean, I'd have to look at scenarios. I saw there's a video that said that if you dropped it 1,000 kilometers off the coast of California, it was a pretty big one, you ended up with a 70-foot wave if it was like 400 meters. But, you know, if you get big enough, you could have an earth killer. But, I mean, I don't think that's going to happen. I think that's, you know, we'll have to see.
The Bureau's going to do the
All right, let's see here. All right, I gotta go back and see here because we got some interesting comments here. I'm gonna skip over them that are not so interested here. Princess and the Bride is absolutely great. That's interesting about Devil's Tower, Samsung, that people think is a tree stump with roots in the ground. I don't think you're wrong with CBC. No evidence yet. Yeah, we'll see. We'll see what it ends up being. We can start chapters and regions. I like that idea, and we can work much more on that. I mean, honestly, I have a lot of things. I will just tell you, September is going to be an insane month for me for reasons that I will explain in October. But after that, I will be able to do a lot more, and I will help set things up. We did start a Telegram group, by the way. I'll put it in here for you guys to have it. T.me/Atlantic Homeland. You're welcome to come in there and make some friends, and then maybe we'll spawn some things out of that. That would be good. All right. After World War II, no superpowers have gone directly. That's absolutely true. They don't want to have that here. Is religion a niche thing? I believe religion's. I believe honestly, faith's more important. I believe that culture is downwind of faith, or I should say, religion. Technically, faith, religion's the codification, and that politics is downwind of culture. People don't just because people don't make a big deal about these things doesn't make it any less true. It just makes people more ignorant. And I would ask, do you think people are smarter or less smart today? And if you don't believe me, well, I'll give you a little challenge. Go read a school textbook from 1900 and compare the level of literacy required to what you would read for a high schooler today, and you tell me who you'd be more prepared to invest thoughts in terms of their basic way of looking at the world. So, but yeah, I am not a fan of Islam in any way, shape, or form. I'll just put it to you that way. I see it as an awful heresy and a satanic cult. But that's my own belief, and people will believe otherwise. And I'm not saying every Muslim's a bad person. I'm just saying I don't believe in the belief structure. And one day, if people want, I will literally go through why I think Christianity is the true religion, and then I'll get banned from YouTube because I'm not culturally tolerant of things that I think are wrong. Okay. Believe. Good. Glad you're listening. I'm glad you like the podcast. Hope all's well out there in Utah. Glad to hear you. And capitalism is pretty bad here. If I could do a show on the Giants Bones from 1850 to 1910 or whatever the times you heard, that would be cool. I have never heard of those findings. Look up, Ian, if you're interested in it, The Secret History of the Smithsonian. You'll find it if you do that. How do we set up chapters? I'll think about it, and I'll have an answer for you next week. Join the Telegram group, and we'll work it out. We'll figure it out. That's a really good idea. And we'll try to do it. Maybe we'll do it by state. That's the best way to do it. But we have sub-states already built for bigger states, so we'll work on that. Write a book on the Mormon takeover. Man, I'm not touching the Mormon. We'll leave Moroni to someone else, right? Let's see. Kolob is going to get you. Psilocybin helped me find God. I believe that, Jared. I actually believe that. I actually have had a real... Psilocybin, I think, is actually pretty useful. If you want to go read... I think the book is called Food of the Gods by Terence McKenna, and it talks about some of these things if you want to have an intellectual knowledge. But I don't know how to experientially explain what this is like. It's like, what did I learn? What did I say once? It's learning to fall upside. Your brain. Your brain makes different connections. I don't know how else to put it.
It's like that game of yours where you rewire the trolley
tracks. True. Joseph Smith and the first vision was a failed alien abduction. That could be true. Happened in Vermont. Just shows you Vermont's always been crazy. Much love for the Vermonters, by the way. I love the Green Mountain State. Have I ever heard of Ivar Listener? I have not. You'll have to tell me about that. As we went through Wyoming, Idaho, and Nevada, we realized how different California is from the rest of the country. It's absolutely true. It's interesting if you travel across the country. Once you get out of the San Joaquin Valley in California, you have dirt and mountains until you get to forest. But what's interesting of the difference between eastern forest and western forest is eastern forest you have grass on the ground and it's green and it's not nearly as high. Whereas western forests have these huge majestic trees, but they have a tendency to have a lot of fires. So that is really interesting.
Those fires are occurring along the edge of the Great John.
When my dad was alive 30 years ago, he told me there eventually would be no middle class. That's sadly true. And one thing, love him or hate him, Trump has been right about, is we need to re-onshore manufacturing, but we'll have to see. Let's see. Ivar Arthur Nikolai Listener was a German journalist, author, and spy during World War II who wrote Man, God, and Magic. If he talked about the Thule Society and Real. That might be interesting. That was the German version of Nazi mysticism, which is it's actually interesting. They have this woman who apparently went around, and Himmler had this castle devoted to it. And every one of these, by the way, every one of these groups have their own secret one. I don't know what the Russian one was called. I'm sure they must have had one. We actually had one that developed, I think if I remember right, and I don't want to swear by this, but what eventually evolved in DARPA actually started in Camden, Maine. It was basically some theosophists on the coast that were busy doing seances and had a lot of money and were well connected to families. They had it at the Camden Public Library. I'm trying to remember who. I think Ann Jacobson, who writes some really brilliant books on this, by the way. If you. Oh, well, yeah, well, the Bushes, remember, the Northeastern establishment. So the way it happened in the old world before planes and everything is that rich white people who were here, really, I mean, they came up and they took their vacations up in rural New England. They'd get on the train and they'd come hang out on the beaches. So you can learn a lot. But the Annie Jacobson books are really good if you want to learn about some of that stuff. But I'll have to look into this listener guy if I get a chance. It's interesting. I don't know much about him. You know, I'm curious what he was talking about. Randomness is in the lone wolf approach, kind of more like in the sense that you just don't do the same thing twice. Because if they don't know what you're doing, if you don't know what you're doing, they can't know what you're doing, you know? And the computer relies upon predictive models that past behavior is indicative of future outcomes. So if you deliberately change things in ways that are randomized, because if you change them in a predictable way, they can figure that out. But that's how you beat AI. Richard writes, the drug goes by the name Spice. It's synthetic cannabis, just as addictive as fentanyl imported from China. China's been doing us dirty, man. I mean, China's really not being good.
It's another molecule. So it's closely more related to cocaine, actually.
Oh, there you go. So the other thing I was going to say, you know, the thing about China is their defense, the defense minister literally said they can't afford to feed themselves and they want to go ahead and conquer America, or at least parts of it, to go ahead and feed themselves. And when you think about that, it's actually kind of interesting because why would you see all this being pushed apart? Let's play out the California secession. California makes like 40% of the food supply. So China could settle for a vassal state of California quite happily to go ahead and meet its, food needs. And so that might be...
They wouldn't harvest my organs because I would give them all Lyme disease.
Well, that's good. My wife won't play the role of Luger in this thing.
No, they just kill me.
Grandpa Mason believes Atlantis existed. Yeah, I absolutely think that's true. Let's see. You should read Fingerprints of the Gods by Graham Hancock. I have actually. It's been a while, but Graham Hancock did some really interesting work that is interesting. Let's see. Did you... let's see. Did you ever listen to Art Bell? Of course I did. I started listening in late 70s. I have KDWN out of Las Vegas. It would come in once the sun went down in Central California. If I remember right, it was the late show on KTAR. What was it? I want to say it was 6:20 a.m. out there in Phoenix, Arizona, where I lived. And yeah, absolutely. Spent a lot of late nights with Art Bell, and interesting guy. You listen to stories of Bob Lazar and Area 51 and all of those things. So yeah, good times, man. Coast to Coast used to be good before Clear Channel got a hold of it and they ruined it. I mean, George Snorri just doesn't get it done. You know, he can't even stay awake to his own guests. Let's see. New England is cold. That's true, but it's not as cold as the Mountain West, actually. Abraham didn't have religion. He had faith, born of experience, and a walk in relationship with God. Absolutely true. I agree with that. Let's see. And China does have a huge industry. Remember, when you buy cheap goods, you get crappy goods. So I think with that in mind, I pretty much got through all of these things. So if you guys get any last minute questions, put them in now or forever hold your peace, or at least till next Friday. And until then, I'm just going to say a quick prayer. I just pray, Heavenly Father, as we go into this new month, I pray for the safety of everyone who's here, that the wisdom will come to them, that they are able to learn more. Hopefully they get immersed into your word, and that this program might serve as use for people to have a deeper understanding of the world and universe, and that hopefully the knowledge I'm giving is good and in accordance with your will, which is very much my wish. And also I pray for the health and welfare of everyone, including my wonderful wife, Dana. So in Jesus' name, I pray that. Amen. Thank you, everyone, for being here for yet another exciting episode of Tom Unscripted, where I tell you all sorts of rabbit holes to go down and leave you even more confused than you were when you started. But we will go ahead, and I will have more out there. Like I said, join if you aren't on Telegram. By the way, you might want to be there. If the show disappears, we do have the show on. What was I gonna say? We're on. Good to see you, Aster. By the way, I hope all's well down there in the Big Easy. Or I know you're not in there, but close enough. I would say that I will keep the show on the podcast format because that's a little more available. But if it gets blown up, I probably will simulcast the D Live at some point once I get a chance to set some new stuff up. And we will be good going forward where if YouTube blows me up, I'll be somewhere else. But join the Telegram group. It's a good way to network and we can have better conversations. Thank you, each and every one of you. And hopefully you enjoyed the show. What's that? I did put it up already. Yeah, I put it up a little earlier. Okay, so now me being the old man I am, I'm gonna go get some sleep. Go buy a book or something. If you don't buy my book, go buy some books. Get what you're gonna want to have. Do keep an eye on things. I do hear rumors that something weird might happen on September 1st. And yeah, buy more food. Get food seriously, because if inflation happens, food's gonna be the one thing you won't actually be able to get. So do that. All right, all y'all have a good night. I'll see you later.